Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving into the profound tension found in Exodus chapters 5 and 6. You know that feeling when you finally do the right thing, you step out in faith, and you expect things to get easier, but instead life just gets way harder? It's incredibly relatable, right? We often operate under this assumption that obedience equals immediate positive results. But this ancient text completely upends that idea, offering us a gritty, realistic look at faith, suffering, and what divine promises actually look like in the real world.
We're going to break this narrative down together into 5 key sections. We'll start with the clash of authorities, move into when things get worse, look at the covenant promises, spend some time challenging our worldviews, and wrap up with how this shapes us.
All right, let's jump right into section 1, the clash of authorities, setting the stage in Egypt. So our story kicks off during a really dark period of Israel's slavery in Egypt. Moses and Aaron march right into the throne room of literally the most powerful man on earth. Moses says, "Let my people go." And Pharaoh? He doesn't just politely decline, he flat out rejects it. This gives us a brilliant picture of the ultimate clash between human ego and divine sovereignty. On one hand, you've got Pharaoh's authority. It's entirely human-centered, rooted in harshness, and stubbornly refuses to recognize Yahweh. On the other hand, you have God's authority, defined by divine power, deep compassion for the enslaved, and this unwavering covenant. It's basically the immovable object of human pride slamming straight into the unstoppable force of divine will. Moving on to section 2, when things get worse, expectation versus reality. We naturally expect that when we obey God, success is right around the corner. Moses stepped out in faith, so the chains should just magically fall off, right? Well, let's track this rapid downward spiral. Day 1, Moses boldly demands their release. The expectation? Total freedom. But by day 2, Pharaoh retaliates, and he hits back hard. He tells the Israelites to make the exact same quota of bricks, but without providing any straw. To put that into perspective, straw was the essential chemical binding agent for ancient mud bricks. So this wasn't just Pharaoh being petty, it was scientifically calculated cruelty. It was a crushing burden. By day 3, the exhausted, broken Israelites turn right around and blame Moses for making things worse. And by day 4, Moses himself plunges into deep doubt, turning to God and basically saying, "Why did you even send me?" Obedience actually made things worse. The situation didn't just fail to improve, it actively fell apart. And that forces us to pause and ask a really difficult question. Why does obedience sometimes produce greater suffering? Seriously, have you ever done the exact right thing, stepped out in total integrity, only to watch everything around you just implode? This text absolutely validates that experience. It shows us that a worsening situation isn't necessarily proof that you've messed up or that God has abandoned you. Sometimes the struggle is literally just the prelude to redemption. That brings us to section 3, the covenant promises, the climax of the narrative. Right when human despair hits rock bottom at the end of chapter 5, and Moses is totally frustrated, the tone of the story dramatically flips. God doesn't chew Moses out for doubting. Instead, he answers with this incredible, rhythmic climax of absolute assurance. Listen to this. "I will bring you out, I will rescue you, I will redeem you, I will take you as my people." In the face of total human failure, God doesn't hand Moses a to-do list to fix things. He points entirely to what he himself is going to do. What's super fascinating here is how God's decisive "I will" statements systematically dismantle Pharaoh's "no." Just look at the breakdown of this response. God repeatedly identifies himself as the Lord, or Yahweh, anchoring everything in his eternal character. He uses these bold, authoritative "I will" statements. He reminds Moses of the ancient covenant made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He directly counters Pharaoh's resistance, and he intentionally shifts Moses' focus off the current nightmare and on to future redemption. He's making it crystal clear that deliverance depends entirely on divine power, not on human circumstances. And nestled right in the heart of those promises is this critical concept of redemption. Now, in this immediate context, redemption is God's promise to free Israel from physical slavery. But this isn't just a historical footnote. This promise is the theological core of the passage. It acts as a foundational model, a massive foreshadowing for the greater redemption we see play out later in the biblical narrative. Just as God physically redeemed Israel from the bondage of Egypt, it points straight forward to humanity's need to be freed from the bondage of sin through Christ. Section 4. Challenging our worldviews. Deconstructing frameworks. You know the way Moses and the Israelites reacted? That's exactly how we react today. This source material fundamentally challenges our default settings. As we look at these frameworks, you can see how aggressively the text pushes back on us. We tend to have this immediate results mentality, right? But the biblical reality shows that obedience requires perseverance, not a quick fix. We also lean heavily on a circumstantial faith. If things are going well, God is good. If things are bad, God must be mad. But we're called to trust God's character despite the difficult circumstances. It completely destroys our self-reliance, pushing us to depend on God's power instead of our own strength. And when we start doubting God's promises, this narrative urges us to rely on the promiser rather than the storm swirling around us.
So, the absolute crucial point to remember is this: God's delays do not mean God's absence. I'll say that again because it's that important. God's delays do not mean God's absence. Just because you can't see the promise being fulfilled right in front of your face doesn't mean it's been revoked. God is actively working, aligning pieces we can't even comprehend, even when his purposes are completely invisible to us in the moment. Finally, Section 5, how this shapes us, the application. Understanding this ancient clash directly shapes how we live, lead, and shepherd others today. If you're leading a team, parenting, or guiding anyone through a tough season, keep these applications in mind. First off, prepare people for realistic difficulties. Following God isn't a cheat code for an easy life. Second, when people are discouraged, don't just hand them empty platitudes. Point them directly to God's concrete promises. Show deep patience and compassion to people who are doubting. Remember, God didn't strike Moses with lightning for his questions. He reassured him. Teach God's sovereignty, even when things look totally chaotic, and always keep your ministry centered on that ongoing theme of redemption. Sometimes, God's greatest works start in seasons of what looks like a complete, chaotic setback.
Which brings us to the melodic line, the core transformational takeaway of this entire explainer. If you only remember one thing today, let it be this: God's promises remain certain even when circumstances contradict them. The Roach redemption might involve intense suffering, confusion, and massive setbacks, but God's covenant faithfulness guarantees ultimate victory. His word is always going to be infinitely more reliable than whatever your eyes are seeing today. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this provocative thought to chew on. Are you anchoring your faith in immediate results or in the character of the promiser? When the bricks get heavier and the straw is suddenly taken away, what holds you steady? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I hope this helps you anchor yourself in something truly unshakable.